This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue, and the TSO's marketing director, Felicia Canny. Well, our episode today is inspired by a concert this weekend, which features Storm Large, wonderful singer. She's going to be performing at the Stranahan with the TSO. That's this Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m. You can find out more information at ToledoSymphony.com or call up the box office, 419-246-8000. The title of the program is Storm Large and the Crazy Arc of Love, and being that this episode is airing on Valentine's Day, we are going to talk all about love and romantic music, all those wonderful things. Should we talk about Storm Large first, and this concert is coming up? Do you want to jump in and tell us about that, Felicia?
Oh, yes. So this concert is something that I think everyone can relate to and really enjoy. And the title itself, The Crazy Arc of Love, basically the program explores music about first love and the excitement and the emotions associated with that moment. Yeah. And then it goes through turmoil, possible turmoil. You know, some people might relate to that. And then it goes just through the different cycles of love and ends with something that's just really gorgeous and beautiful. That's,
Yeah.
And Storm Large has a phenomenal stage presence, big voice.
Yeah.
And she, I think, shot to national prominence after being on this talent show, Rock Supernova, a CBS talent show. And then she's performed with the group Pink Martini before, and Oregon-based, and she's traveled the country now performing with symphonies across the nation.
Yeah, and she was here before. She was with the Toledo Symphony a few years ago. I know she was here in the studio before that concert talking about it. Really wonderful personality, and somebody who transforms everything that she sings. You know, she sings music from all across the spectrum, right, but every time that she does it, she always makes it her own in a certain way.
She'll be here actually for 2 consecutive weekends. So she's doing this weekend's concert on the pop series, and then she'll be here next weekend doing a very different type of concert on our classic series. Yeah. And it will really showcase the variety or the breadth of her talent to go from the Arc of Love into the 7 Deadly Sins by Kurt Weill next week, which is also one of her calling cards. Yeah. So she has kind of 2 phases in her own professional career, and we're really lucky to be able to explore both of those this next couple weeks.
Well, I think the Arc of Love and the 7 Deadly Sins have some kind of, intermingling there somehow, just even in a thematic.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've thought about the Arc of Love as like, picture the arch in St. Louis. That's above ground. That's like the Arc of Love in my mind. And then
that's
the 7
Arch
Deadly
of
Sins,
Love.
The Arch of Love. 7 Deadly Sins is this Arch of Love underground.
So that just reminded me of some sort of like cosine sign.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yin and yang. Yeah. So
that's just for you, Zach. That's my.
Why does that make me feel so uncomfortable?
Kind of felt like somebody snuck up behind me and gave me a smooch.
Okay. Yeah, it's called agape. Remember, there are all different kinds of love, right?
Yeah.
All different kinds of love.
Just to clarify for our listeners, that was a sound effect, right?
Speaking of Valentine's, which we were speaking of Valentine's at the beginning of the podcast, so I can say that, speaking of Valentine's. Let's talk a little bit about Valentine's Day. And I have a little Valentine's trivia for you. Not really a quiz, but just to give you an idea of the origins of Valentine's Day. A lot of people know this, right? It's named after Saint
Valentine.
Saint Valentine.
Oh, that was my second guess.
Named after Saint Valentine. Saint Valentine lived during the 3rd century, and he was put in jail. He was martyred because he was marrying people, and he was ministering to Christians, which was a no-no at the time. So the very first Valentine ever written, according to legend, came from him, writing to the daughter of his jailer, who had been blind, and he had healed her. He wrote her a note, and he signed it, "Your Valentine," and that was on the eve of his execution. So right there, we have love and death, mixed together, right?
I'm just thinking about all those poor school children who write each other Valentines. They don't really think about the
Yeah, exactly.
Tradition they're upholding.
Well, I mean, if you really want to impress your date, right? Right on the Valentine and then right off to your death.
Wow.
Wow, that just got dark fast.
Yeah, that's a little bit more of a crazy cliff drop of love.
Crazy cliff drop of love.
Yeah, I'm writing this one down too.
Yeah.
No.
Excellent ideas.
But it wasn't until centuries later that people started to think of Valentines with, romantic, courtly love. And you know who the author was that sort of brought that into the world? That was Canterbury Tales. Ring a bell?
Chaucer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Geoffrey Chaucer.
No idea.
In the 1300s. He wrote about birds and birds mating in February. And he said, the birds pick their mates on St. Valentine's Day. It wasn't really necessarily February 14th at the time, maybe late February, maybe even May, according to some sources, which makes a little bit more sense. But then other authors started to pick up on this idea of birds and Valentine's Day, and it eventually flowered into what we have now. If you want to go to the first time that somebody actually wrote a Valentine's Day card and called somebody their Valentine, then you have to go to the 15th century. And Charles of Orleans, who was in the Tower of London after the Battle of Agincourt, history lesson for today, he wrote a letter to his beloved, and he said, I am already sick of love, my very gentle Valentine. That's how he began the poem. So we can ascribe to him the idea of calling people Valentines.
I just have this sense of like a really stale piece of heart-shaped candy from the 1400s that says "Be mine" on it. Yeah,
like a little piece of stone where it's chiseled in, Flintstone style, right?
It might work on your dentures.
A little bit of heartburn. But in medieval times, it was not the heart that was the seat of love. It was the liver. People thought that the liver was the most romantic organ. No reaction? Nothing? You got nothing?
There's a joke in there somewhere, Brad, but I'm not taking the bait.
Yeah. But it's actually true. It's actually true. If we start talking about the heart and the heart symbol, this idea of the heart, and it's weird because you look at the way people draw a heart, right? And it doesn't really look like a heart. I mean, unless maybe it was a really crappy artist who first drew the symbol of the heart. And he's like, here, look, a heart. And they were like, that looks nothing like a heart, but we'll use it anyway. I mean, that's possible.
Well, the many chambers of the liver just doesn't have the same brain or anatomical correctness.
Well, the many chambers of the heart.
It's been a while since I played Operation, but I'm pretty sure that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Finally, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, to people of a certain generation, perhaps.
Yeah, now it probably just makes it's probably played on an iPad.
Yeah. So the heart shape. I actually did a little research on this, and just because I know that everybody is, waiting with bated breath to figure out where that comes from. Evidently, it's now extinct, but there was a plant called silphium, which was used as a contraceptive, and the seeds look like little hearts, the little heart shape. So they think that that's what, people were using to symbolize the heart.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. I swear I did not make that up.
What'd you say it was called? Silphium?
Silphium, yeah.
You were...
Every time that I reach over to that soundboard, I see Zach start to cringe.
It's a nervous tick.
But I think
why did the plant go extinct if it was...
I think it was overuse or something. I don't know.
Using the seeds on itself, perhaps?
I don't mean...
Wow.
Wow. I don't even have a sound effect for that.
Yikes.
Oh,
Biology gone wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying, Merwin?
I really was trying to bring it back to the concert. And you had mentioned Storm Large being here about 3 or 4 years ago. And
right.
She performed from Greece. I think it was Hopelessly Devoted to You. And just turned that very harmless little song into something that kind of had this sense of like a Stephen King movie in it, and it was just extraordinarily sinister.
Because nothing says romance like Stephen King.
Well, I think there's this very dark side that she finds the dark sides of these songs. Cole Porter's I've Got You Under My Skin. If you listen to that, you just realize there are these dark sides to these words, and I think she really revels in that, and I think it's a very, very exciting, subversive, crazy concert, and I'm really, really excited to play it.
But the music isn't all dark. Like I've listened to her albums; they aren't all dark. I think there's a playfulness that she'll explore in the arrangements. You could say that of Audra McDonald too. You know, she had some really interesting arrangements when she was here. But it just really speaks to the breadth of what these love songs can do. It's not it's not like you're going to Hallmark and getting the same experience of affection in all of the love songs. There's actually great depth to the music and the possibilities there.
I was thinking of bringing in a little bit of music here. I know some of you talked about via email when we were discussing this episode what music you thought would be romantic. Mm-hmm. This is one of Merwin's choices. That was your choice, right? Okay.
It is. I chose several different ones. This is probably one of the most kind of, I hate to say cliched, but it's certainly one of the first ones that popped to my mind. And I do, just love this melody.
You want to tell us what it is?
It's from Rachmaninoff, but it's kind of an inversion, an upside down, if you will, of Paganini's 24th Caprice. He somehow, this is what separates genius composers. He realized that if you actually turn that melody upside down, it becomes this incredibly gorgeous romantic tune, and it totally is.
I like how these kinds of themes that they're rhapsodic, for lack of a better word, can portray lots of different feelings. It can be romantic, but it can be in lots of different situations. And a lot of film directors have used this sort of music, to a great effect, even to a comic effect. Like this piece is almost, like you said, a cliche. And, you think of the lovers in the wide open field rushing towards each other and perhaps missing and keeping on going somewhere.
That's how you imagine it, right?
Yeah. It's the Mel Brooks version of that scene. Yeah.
Yes. That would be the story.
But I'm
of
with
my
you
life.
there. I feel like there's something very melancholy about that music at the same time.
Yeah.
And Rachmaninoff does this. Tchaikovsky does this. I guess you have to be a Russian composer to really get to that sense of melancholy and beauty and love all at the same time. But it also happens in love songs. Some of my favorite Sinatra albums are about the one that got away. But This Was My Love was one of my favorite Sinatra songs. And it's one of the most beautiful songs. But I
don't know that song.
No,
This Was My Love.
Yeah,
What's the name of it?
Fits his voice just beautifully. But then he has something like "I've Got a Crush on You," where he has the saxophone playing along with him. He doesn't use a lot of solo sax, but he does on that song. And there's something about the way he says the word crush that sounds like mushy, blushy love songs. There's something about it that just, it's a great love song.
Yeah. Well, that was, that was part of his magic. Mm-hmm. His ability to take a single word and fill it with all different kinds of meanings.
It's true.
Right. Felicia, when you think of, romantic songs or love songs, any favorite, oboe anthems come to mind?
No.
Because that's all you get.
That's all I get. The first one that popped to mind was, I think, Nino Rota.
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet from that film, like in the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting that the melody escapes me right now, but that was the first one that popped in my mind.
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
And I first encountered that movie. I think it was in English class in high school or something. We watched it right after reading.
Yeah, everybody did. Yeah. Everybody watched that in school, and it was scandalous because there was a quick little nude scene in there. I remember.
Oh yeah. My teacher had like some sort of cardboard piece of paper. She just stood in front of the TV and like slapped it when it came on. And then she's like, "There you go, kids. Keep watching."
Oh no.
But that's what I think of when I think of romantic melodies.
We saw it on the big screen though, so they couldn't really do that. They had a big screen.
It would have been ineffective with a tiny piece of cardboard.
Oh, wait here.
Oh darn, I missed.
Went by so fast. Yeah.
But there's something about that scene of rushing through the field and the great reunion. That to me is the Tchaikovsky Romeo and Juliet. So you're talking about Romeo and Juliet. The fantasy overture is also cliche, but it is so wonderfully done. You think about how he kind of sets it up. There's a sort of like heart pounding in the low strings, and you can't help but get swept up in it. Yeah. And it's unfortunately a piece that we don't play very much. It's more pop's repertoire now, but it's really, really great music. It's fun. It's exciting. It's about 20 minutes long, and we only know it for a couple minutes in the middle.
Yeah. Right?
Sounds even better the way you do it.
Thank you. Yeah. What makes those songs sound romantic? That, there's that kind of sweeping melody that kind of goes up and down and all over the place. All three of those things that we've talked about have that quality. And I'm wondering what it is that makes it seem romantic when you hear that theme.
Soaring strings help a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out there and say that.
Says the string player.
Absolutely. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
although
the idea that
the
idea that there are heartstrings. I think there's something about that. I think one of the things about we were talking in a way about how there's this sort of, it's not a perfectly pure sort of arc of love. There's always dark sides. There's always jagged edges. And when you compare sound waves of various instruments, like a flute sound is extremely pure in terms of its sound wave, but I think stringed instruments have much more kind of twists and turns in their sound wave, and I think there's something about that maybe speaks to love.
Okay. Everybody
either
agree
that or
with
Selfium.
Yeah, right. I'm impressed. You remember the name.
You think about violin concertos too, though. There's something very beautiful about a violin concerto and cello concerto too. But it kind of teeters on that sense of melancholy and beauty as well. And I'm thinking something like the Barber Violin Concerto, the Andante. There's something really lush and gorgeous about that, and the violin never seems to be perfectly happy or achieving ecstasy. There's always some sort of melancholy underneath with the harmonies, but it's another wonderful and romantic piece of music.
Well, if you think about there's a John Corigliano movie, The Red Violin, and it's about taking the blood of the loved one, painting it into the varnish of the instrument. And I just never thought about how ridiculous that would be if one tried to incorporate that into any other instrument. It's like, let's try to somehow incorporate the soul of my loved one in the construction of this clarinet. Somehow it just doesn't seem like it would
clarinets aren't really romantic instruments, I don't think. No offense.
George and Jocelyn are very upset with you right now. No, but there's something about the fact that they're made of wood, that they kind of still breathe in their own way.
Yeah.
And the way that they're played. I mean, all of those instruments are you're more or less wrapping your body around them in order to play them, and I think that makes them very human.
So, romantic instruments. I mean, are there any really romantic instruments aside from the violin?
Tam-tam.
The tam-tam.
Well,
yeah.
I think that the oboe is actually. Yeah, I consider it what are you guys doing?
That was for me, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
not for you. Continue on to oboe.
I think there's a
the
fair
oboe was
case
gonna
to
come
make for the oboe.
Because I mean, you hear the oboe play in lots of movie soundtracks, like melody. It's either something melancholy or beautiful or romantic, and it cues like a character coming into the scene or whatever.
Yeah, and it tunes the orchestra.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's extraordinarily romantic.
But if you compare it to the clarinet, when you play the clarinet, you're supposed to play it without any vibrato, or when I played back in high school, I had no vibrato. And then with the oboe, it's like you're supposed to use that. It brings color to the line that you're playing, and I think that's why that instrument is used so often. And
there is an oboe d'amore. So
an oboe d'amore.
The oboe of love.
Yes.
Yes, the oboe of love.
Oboe d'amore. Yeah.
Very difficult to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, it has kind of a weird Dean Martin kind of feel to it, the oboe d'amore,
Yeah.
You're doing volare? What do you?
Yeah, oboe volare. No, you have to throw the oboe if you're going to be an oboe volare. What about the flute
Romantic,
and the
I think.
harp? Flute and the harp. I'm segueing into the next piece of music here. Flute and the harp. The flute is kind of, has a romantic quality to it. Certainly the harp has kind of a
Yeah.
lugubrious
People who
romantic quality.
can't see our facial expressions, there's a fair bit of skepticism right
Yeah.
It's
now.
a wonderful pairing.
It is a wonderful
beautiful
pairing.
sound.
It is a wonderful
They
pairing.
go
and a
together
beautiful
so
sound.
well.
Well,
Yet somehow, for me, it doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't.
Well, not for nothing, Mozart agreed with you, Merwin. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
Mozart
don't-
did not like the flute. He only wrote stuff for flute when he was paid or going to be paid for it or thought he was going to be paid for it, although he didn't get paid for all the flute pieces he wrote, including that famous flute and harp concerto, which he wrote for a gentleman and his daughter in Paris.
He never got paid for that.
He never got paid
Oh
for it.
wow!
Yeah, yeah.
Are you going to play a little bit
I'm
of
going
that?
to play a little bit of it. The second movement, which I think has this beautiful romantic part, and it's all about the setup and then the unveiling, right? There's some kind of emotion that is unspoken but shared by all who listen to it, and see if you can pick up on it. I mean, I think this is what music does best, is express the unexpressible. So this particular piece can be seen in different ways. You can think of it as, like lots of different scenarios, not all of them romantic, but we can use it in a romantic context. And we'll listen to just the beginning of it here. Well, this is halfway through. What are you shaking your head for? I know it sounds like Zamfir at
No,
the pan
no,
flute.
it's a beautiful piece, but it sounds so innocent.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
love is not that way.
I don't think of it that way. To me, it's not a romantic love piece at all. I don't
Okay.
love it at all.
All right, never mind.
I agree.
Well, okay, so
So this obviously was not one of our selections. Like,
Wait,
yours.
were we
was
supposed to
it
select
Brad's
Zach?
select-
music?
Or was it Brad's?
All right.
Yeah. You want to
Look,
change your mind or
you just,
no?
you just
No, not really.
stumped on his dream right now, Merwin. Look at how sad
That's
Brad
okay.
looks. Yeah.
I don't really care.
It's only love. So think about the romantic solo piano repertoire. So there was a sense that Liszt or Schumann or even Chopin would play some of their own compositions for solo piano, and people would faint in the audience.
yeah.
There's this idea of like, it's so expressive, it's so emotional. There are no strings, no oboes, but there's
What?
something about the way that the fluidity of the keyboard comes alive, and
No
a single
flute,
person
no
is
harp.
making all this great drama happen. So what is it? There are no soaring strings. What is that character? And I'm thinking about like Sospiro or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it has more to do with the actual person than the vehicle for the music. Like we just saw that demonstrated with Merwin and Felicia shooting me down when I put out that Mozart. To me, it has this wonderful quality of like an unveiling kind of a deep feeling that can resonate between two people that have the same, that are on the same path. But for Merwin, it's like light and frothy and,
Oh, it was funny because you had mentioned that it was kind of for a father and a daughter, right?
yeah.
That's what I thought of. I thought
Yeah.
of like I thought of a child.
Okay.
I don't think
Well,
of romantic.
now you
And that's what I thought of. It felt
That makes
very
sense. Yeah.
innocent to me.
okay.
Beautiful, but
Yeah. But that really makes me sound creepy when I try to turn it into
Oh, I hadn't meant to go there.
I didn't even
Wow.
think about
Song.
that.
Poor Brad.
Yeah, that's okay.
Doing this radio show is doing a lot for your personal reputation.
That's fine. Nobody listens, right? Nobody's taking notes.
So I'd love to know, Merwin, what else is on your list?
I chose the slow movement from Paul Schoenfield's Cafe Music.
You love that music, don't you?
Gosh, I love that music.
Yeah.
In a kind of more in the agape sense that you were talking about earlier, the last movement of Mahler 3.
Oh, yeah.
And he had also asked for a couple of kind of more popular song selections, and I chose "In the Airplane Over the Sea" by Neutral Milk Hotel. That's one of. Yeah.
There it is. Now this to me sounds just like that flute and harp concerto, right? Listen to
I
the
can
chords.
assure you, there's nothing about his father-daughter in that.
There's not, there are no words to it. This has words. What are these words about?
Well, it's almost kind of like a carpe diem sort of sentiment. The sense that we're young, this is our time, and the airplane over the sea. This sort of sense that how many trips around the world do we have? This is our trip around the world. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah. This is our
time. Yeah, this is our time.
This is our time. And then when it's not our time anymore, what do we do then?
We
then
go
we
to
listen
Storm
to
Large is the Crazy Arc of Love and
Right.
and explore all the heartbreak and turmoil songs instead.
Let's relive all of the romantic errors of our past.
Exactly.
So let me ask you guys,
Eros versus Eros.
little quiz here. What's the most romantic thing that you've ever done, Merwin?
I have to start.
For Valentine's Day.
That changes it.
Well, it doesn't have to be for Valentine's.
okay.
I'm saying tell us on the
I
occasion
see,
of
I get it.
Valentine's Day.
Well, it was probably my proposal to Kimberly, my wife. And she's a huge comic book fan. So I created comic book pages, and with some really great help from some friends, both at the TSO and the Toledo Museum of Art, we put those pictures through the classic court, and so the pages of the comic book were framed, and they led her to the proposal. So that's
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look at the time. Once again, we're definitely out of time.
Wow. That's great.
Oh, shall we just go down the line here? Felicia, you want to
I
give us
cannot think of a story. Skip me.
You've never done anything romantic? What's the most romantic thing somebody's done for you?
Oh, I cannot. No comment
nothing?
right now.
What's the most, keep it clean. What's the most romantic thing?
It's all clean. What you're talking about.
Okay. All right. Well, poor Felicia has never had any romantic things done for her. Zach, how about you?
Husband's going to hate me.
Yeah, maybe tell Chris not to listen to this episode yet.
Tell him that Valentine's Day is not over yet. Okay, well, I think that's about all the time that we have for the episode today. Before we go, we should mention that the concert is this weekend with Storm Large. It's Storm Large and the Crazy Arc of Love. She'll be there with her band Le Bonheur, also with the Toledo Symphony, right, performing with them. That is this weekend, this Saturday evening at the Stranahan Theater at 8 o'clock p.m. You can call the box office at 419-246-8000 or more online at ToledoSymphony.com. Toledo Symphony Lab is generously underwritten by a gift from the estate of Barbara Garwood and is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at WGTE.org or subscribing on Apple Podcasts. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website. That's ToledoSymphony.com. I'm Brad Cresswell, and this has been Toledo Symphony Lab on FM 91.